In this video, we're going to begin discussing conversion factors as a way into understanding dimensional analysis. This unit is primarily about the process of tackling unit conversion as a means to develop the techniques that we're going to use in later chapters with particular or specific chemical content. But right now, we're just going to use a range of different units to begin to understand the process of unit conversion. So what is a conversion factor? A conversion factor is a ratio of equivalent measurements. You think about what a ratio is in your math classes. We're looking at essentially a fraction. So conversion factors are fractions of measurements that are the same. Because they are the same, they are equal to 1. So anytime you set up a ratio as a fraction and the top and the bottom are equal, so for instance 3 over 3 is equal to 1, 5 over 5 is equal to 1, 1 foot over 12 inches is equal to 1 because both the top and the bottom of that fraction mean the same distance. But because they have different numbers, they have different units, and so you can use these numbers and units to convert a measurement from one unit to another. A couple of things about conversion factors. One, they're reciprocal. So if you look at the top right and the bottom left of this slide, you can see that we have the 1,000 meters is equal to a kilometer with the kilometer on the bottom. Here we have 1,000 meters is equal to a kilometer with a kilometer on top. Again, since the top and the bottom are the same, both of these are equal to 1. If you're converting 2 kilometers, right, you're going to use this one on the top right. If you're converting 2 meters, you're going to use this one on the bottom left. Second thing about conversion factors, the larger of the two numbers in a conversion factor will always go with the smaller of the two units. If we pop over here and look at the grams to nanograms, that's a nano. It's a billionth the size of a gram. And so it takes 10 to the 9th nanograms to make 1 gram. Again, larger number, smaller unit. We are going to use this conversion table as our means for determining, generating conversion factors. And so you're going to have to become very familiar with how this table works. Essentially what you have is some unit over here to the left. And so we're always going to say that one of these is equal to whatever amount is in the box of the unit above. So we can look at the meters and kilometers again. We saw that in the last slide that 1 kilometer, right, is equal to 1,000 meters. So the number in the box always goes with the unit above. The unit on the left always gets a 1 in the conversion factor when you're pulling conversions off of this table. So how would that work? Let's take a look at a simple one here. We want to convert 4.56 meters to centimeters. Now, many of you will have been instructed in metric or SI prefixes. You know how to convert between these units by moving decimal places to the left or the right, depending on whether or not your unit is getting smaller or larger. But we are interested here in a process, so I want to make sure you guys understand the process. And the process starts here with what I like to call the game board. This is a conversion table, and you treat this like you would treat a game, where the conversion table here is the game board. And in any game, you have a playing surface, you have a starting position, you have a set of rules for getting to the beginning to the end of the game. Think about Candyland, chutes and ladders, that kind of thing. Right, here's our game board, and just like in Candyland, where you start with all the little gingerbread men down in the left corner of the game board, in the conversion game, we always start with our given measurement in the top left corner. The given measurement always goes in the top left corner. So if we are going to convert 4.56 meters to centimeters, we're going to take that 4.56 meters, we're going to put it in the top left corner. That is always the place that we start. For now, nothing goes in the bottom left. We'll talk about what goes in the bottom left. It's special circumstances where you have particular units. Otherwise, this is generally going to be left blank. Then, again, if you know your prefixes, you know that 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. If you can't remember that, you can go to the conversion table. But we want to start by writing our equalities out, right? Conversion factors are a ratio of equivalent measurements. So if you start by writing out this equivalent with the equal sign, people that do this as they're learning this process tend to do better if they take the time to do this step. And then we now have what I like to call the game pieces, right? So you have your game board, you have your starting position, and then you have your game pieces. Where are we going to put these in terms of the conversion factor? One's going to go on top, one's going to go on the bottom. This, by the way, is just your fraction line, right? This line here means essentially multiplication. Okay, so we have meters here. We want meters to cancel out. If we want meters to cancel out, we need to divide by meters. Again, anything divided by itself equals 1. Multiplying anything by 1 is an identity. So what we're going to do is we're going to move that 1 meter. Has to go on the bottom to cancel meters out. And then the 100 centimeters is going to go on top. Again, 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. We are essentially multiplying 4.56 by 1. You're going to do your math across the top, multiply across the top, divide across the bottom. 4.56 times 100 divided by 1. Meters are going to cancel out because you have one on top and one on bottom. And do your math and write your answers. Also, we need to check for significant digits. There are 3 significant digits in this measurement. There's an infinite number of significant digits in this identity, right? There are exactly 100 centimeters in 1 meter by definition. Okay. So that's a pretty standard conversion that, again, many of you could have done just by moving the decimal point. But what if we're going between standard and non-standard units, or at least SI and non-SI units? So what about a conversion from meters instead of centimeters to inches? Well, again, start with a game board. Given piece of information goes in the top left, and then we need to get our game pieces. So we're going to have to look at the conversion table. Well, we have inches in 2 spots. We have centimeters in 2 spots. Sorry, meters in 2 spots. We're going from inches to meters. And so we need to find where those 2 things intersect, and they intersect in 2 places. Inches to meters going this way, or meters to inches going this way. Pick one or the other, not both. You only need one of these to do the job. So let's say we start with the 1 meter. Remember, the unit on the left always gets a 1, is equal to 39.37 inches. And think about this for a second, right? It would take more than 1 inch to equal a meter, okay? Meter stick is about 36, well, a yard is 36 inches long. Meter stick is close to a yard, right? So that we know that it would take more than 1 inch to make a meter. So you are going to now set up your equivalent. 39.37 inches is equal to 1 meter. Those are our game pieces. Does the meter go on top or on bottom? Well, this is similar to the last problem. Since we start with meters, we want to move this game piece to the bottom so the meters cancel out. 39.37 inches goes on top. Your meters are going to cancel. If you plug this number into your calculator, you get this big old mess. But, right, how many significant digits are here? It should count off 1, 2, 3. Whereas if we roll over here, that has 4 significant digits. It's not infinite this time because inches are not defined in terms of meters. So we have to round this off to 3 significant digits. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3. And then we look at our next digit, it's a 5. So I need to round 179 up to 180. Now be careful. 180 has 1 or 2 significant digits, and you need your answer to have 3. So you have a couple of options. Put a decimal point. Decimal point tells us that we need to count that 0. You could also have just put a line over the 0. That would also have given us 3 significant digits. And then don't forget your units. Real quick, we go through this again. I'm just going to click the buttons pretty fast this time. The only difference is this time I'm going to pick the 1 inch equals 0.0254 meters. And so here are my game pieces. Again, not the 1, but it's the meter we need to slide into that bottom position. And then we're going to put that inch right there on the top. So this time, instead of multiplying, we're going to divide 4.56 by 0.0254. Meters are going to cancel. And you're going to get a similar but not identical answer. They're actually different in this last decimal place, but of course that doesn't matter because we're going to round to 3 significant digits. You have 3 here, you have 3 here. The answer can only have 3, and lo and behold, you get the same answer. All right, so take a look at this one. Grab your conversion table and pause the video And on a sheet of paper, you need to write this out. We're looking at liquid ounces, so you need to make sure you're in the volume section of your conversion table and see if you can set up and get the conversion. We'll work it with you in a second. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video, hopefully you work through the problem. First thing you need to do, set up a game board. Given piece of information, 44.01 liters goes in the top left. I'm using the conversion 1 ounce equals 29.574 milliliters. You could have used the 1 milliliter equals some decimal of an ounce. It doesn't matter which one you use. You just have to make sure you pull it off the table right. If you're starting with ounces on the left, it's 1 ounce. If you're starting with milliliters on the left, it's 1 milliliter equals. I need milliliters on bottom. Ounces are going to go on top. This is a division problem now. Milliliters are going to cancel. You're going to get this big old long number in your calculator, maybe even more digits than that. 4 significant digits here, 5 significant digits here. We need to round ourselves off to 4 significant digits when we get our final answer. Let's talk about this situation. We've got 33.2 feet cubed, and we want to convert that to meters cubed. Well, in order to do that, it's a standard conversion, but we need to understand this. This is a volume. Any cubic length is a volume. Volume is length times width times height. So there are 3 measurements you have to get, or 3 feet, measurements in feet, that you have to get in order to figure out the cubic feet in a particular measurement. So we're going to set up our game board, and we're going to put our given piece of information in the top left, 33.2 feet. Let's take a look at our conversion table. So either 1 foot is 0.3048 meters, or 1 meter is 3.281 feet. It doesn't matter which one you pick. I'll go with the 1 meter equals 3.281 feet. Feet are going to have to go on the bottom because you're starting with feet on top. So we're going to drop that in there. Now, if we look at what cancels here, this is feet cubed. This is just feet. That is going to cancel with 1 of the feet cubed. Feet cubed means feet times feet times feet. The other way to think about this is think about variables in algebra. If this was x cubed divided by x, you'd be left with x squared on the top. And then if we were to do our math, our units would be feet squared times meters, which is kind of a complicated unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop that same conversion right into the problem again. So now we've got feet squared on the bottom, we got meters squared on the top, but that still leaves us now with units of feet times meters squared. We're trying to get ourselves to meters cubed. Again, because it's cubed, we're going to run this thing one more time. So feet cubed are going to cancel with the 3 feet on the bottom. You've got meters cubed on the top. 33.2 divided by 3.281 divided by 3.281 divided by 3.281. You have to hit divided by each time in your calculator because all 3 of those numbers are in the bottom of the conversion. Okay? So divided by 3.281 divided by 3.281 divided by 3.281. If you do that in your calculator, you should generate this number right here. So we're going to have 3 significant digits because we started with 33.2. So that's 0.940 meters cubed. Again, we could flip it and use the other conversion. Take 33.2 times the number of meters in 1 foot 3 times. You should pause the video. You should do that math. Hopefully, since it's the same conversion, you should end up with the same answer. And that answer is right there. And that is the end of unit conversion. We're going to use these in multi-step problems in a process called dimensional analysis in our next video.